So, you want to be an it girl? Hi guys, and welcome back to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by my mentor, life guru, acting coach, and friend, Kathleen. Hi Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh my God, you just have so many, she's so giddy and she's so cute. I'm really excited to finally have you on the show, so thank you so much. All right, let's give a little bit of context for those who might not know. How do we know each other?
Well, I met you in class, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Playhouse West.
Yes.
And you were so excited to volunteer because I was going through a madness of 16 plays I had going on at once.
Something insane.
And Scott Kahn was doing his This Isn't 40, and I needed an assistant, and you became his assistant quickly after that.
Yes. And like that's and I was a student in your class, and then we also found out that my birthday
is on my anniversary.
The year I was born.
The day
to the day.
Yeah.
And when is your birthday?
The day before.
Yeah. How crazy is that? Literally, I always think about that because, I do really believe that there's such like a, your life brings you where you need to be. But also there's so much, I'm not so into it and Hunter would make so much fun of me, but like there's a lot about when you're born will affect like your life. So I was born the day you got married and then I met you in 2018.
It was meant to be.
It was very meant to be. So you were my acting teacher. And acting is very much a dream-driven career. I think everybody who gets into acting on some level has a dream to do it. So it takes drive to be in the acting, to be an actor, to pursue even learning it. Even if you're interested, I think it takes a lot of drive. And you need to set goals for yourself. And I think that's true of any career too, is like we were just talking about this morning in class, is like you need to set goals and be specific about your goals. So I was just curious if you could tell me a story. She's the best stories and they really inspire the living crap out of me. So if you could tell me a story like about somebody or yourself about, chasing dreams and like what it took to get there.
Oh, wow. I've met so many people in my career that you could tell were going to get their dreams.
Yeah.
It's a good question. So you could sort of see people, believing that most of the people who came in really didn't take no for an answer.
Wow.
Really, really kind of knew that they were going to be successful, or something in them. There was a drive. People who are very successful at any business that have a dream, I think in anything, it's never easy. If you want to be a professional athlete, a professional dancer, whatever your dream is, if you want to be at the top lawyer in your field,
CEOs,
anything, you have to work really hard.
Right.
And when people really want something, you can tell if they're going to work really hard.
Yeah.
They have some sort of killer instinct that makes them work when other people are sleeping.
Ooh.
And so I think there's something to be said about that.
Wow. Now, do you think that people are born with that killer instinct of chasing dreams, or is it something you can learn?
I think maybe it's something that happens to you.
Okay. I love that.
Experience.
Yeah.
Like maybe you learn from somebody. They do something to you and you learn I'll never do that again, or I'm not going to settle for that, or I'm not going to live that. For example, let's just take Jim Carrey's story. Everybody knows his story. His dad was a stand-up comic and wanted to be really bad, but he wasn't making a living, so he decided to become an accountant, right?
Okay.
And he was a failed accountant.
I didn't actually know this.
Lost his business.
Wow.
They lived in a van. So Jim Carrey said, I'm not going to live like that. Like if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail at something I love. So his drive and determination, and he would, drive all over town. He would say he had an audition at Radford, and then he'd say have an audition over on the other side at CBS, and he would drive to those places and plan for his future, which is sort of out of the box. But if you think about it, he wasn't being unrealistic.
Yeah.
He was just making sure he wasn't going to be late.
Wow. I love that. And keeping your dreams alive is sometimes like kind of hard. Like how do you keep the dreams alive when like all the craziness kicks in, like the traffic or like the bills? I mean, I think it can be so hard, and like I think these past couple of years have been really crazy for everybody's dreams because like life seems kind of crazy, and it's like, how do you keep it alive? Because like you said, I don't want to fail at something I don't care about. I'd rather, fail. I feel like fail is not even a real word. Fail is like a fake word. It's not a thing. Like fail at something you like, which just is like, fail how? Because if you're doing something you like, did you even fail? Basically, my question is like, how do you keep that spark alive to keep going, getting up every day and chasing after what you want to do?
Well, if you love what you're doing, is it that hard to get up and do it? For example, right? You're doing your podcast. Is it really hard for you to come here and do your podcast?
No, not at all.
It's because you love it, right?
Yeah.
And every time you do your podcast, you're giving a gift. So you're like spreading your love or whatever it is. So every time you get up in the morning and you're like going for something or doing something that you love, even if you're not making a living at it. Let's say you're waiting tables and then you run to a rehearsal and you have this amazing rehearsal and all of a sudden you're charged and like waiting tables was like nothing.
Right.
But that rehearsal you're thinking about all day long. Well, there's something special about that. That means you're feeding your soul and you're living your purpose. So why not wake up? I mean, I know people who wake up just to go catch a fish. I know people who wake up really early to catch a wave. If that's what gets you up and gets you going in the morning and that brings you joy, then I think you're really living.
Right.
So people I know go 9 to 5 every day and they hate their life and they hate their job. And I think that that's so sad. I mean, I'd much rather be an artist chasing a dream, not knowing if I'm ever going to eat tomorrow, but yet I'm going to be okay in a way because I know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Something.
Did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
I think maybe, yeah.
Because it was like in your veins, you felt like?
When I was a little kid, I used to perform. My dad used to take us to do, my grandmother had to move into a home. So he would take us there on the weekends to entertain them. So we'd put on little plays and shows. Just see the joy on the people's faces was, and you knew you were giving them a present because even if they were like zoned out, when they get older people sometimes will not be present. Even if they were zoned out, when they would hear us sing or we'd start to perform, they'd come alive. And that's worth living for.
Absolutely. The thing you want to do in life, like it's going to present yourself. I feel so bad when people say like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, or like, I don't know what I want to do for a job. And it's like, I think people actually do. You're just maybe scared to go after it because it's like you're talking about this experience when you're young and like you instantly knew, like on some level, like even if you didn't know it, you subconsciously knew.
Yeah.
You're gonna chase that dream. You're going to do it. And I feel so bad when people walk away from the dream chasing to pursue the 9 to 5 and potentially, not be fulfilled. So it's like, I completely believe that like you should really go after what you want. So it's like, looking at your past and looking at your upbringing and like, just like a time where you thought you were really doing something that made you feel something, that's what you're meant to do. I've also think that when you're off track with what you're meant to do, you can tell. And that's why your life won't let you get to that next level and that next step in the career because you're not meant to do it. So like if I was to tell you today, like, Kathleen, I'm done. I'm quitting the podcast. I'm quitting acting. I am going to go be, I don't even know what I would be. I'm going to go work in a
I'm going to be a dentist.
I'm going to go be a dentist. Yeah, that's actually a good career for me because at least I kind of like am intrigued by teeth. I'm going to go be a dentist. I think I wouldn't be a very good dentist because at the end of the day, I would know my like pulse and heart is really somewhere else.
That's true.
So I just like, to anybody out there, I think it's important to follow that instinct, follow that heart, I love your stories, like I said. And like, can you tell us about your dream of moving to LA and how that came true?
Sure. I always wanted to move to LA because I always saw the beaches and Hollywood Boulevard on TV look so
right.
glamorous.
And you're originally from
Massachusetts, Cape Cod. I grew up on a little island in the Cape. And so when I was old enough, I had a little car that my dad gave me, a secondhand Horizon Meisner, and I threw all my
It's called a Meisner?
A little Horizon Meisner.
It's called a Meisner. Yeah. Our acting studio is based off of like a Meisner technique. Okay, continue.
So that's so funny.
That is so funny. That's why I was like, you don't think that's weird? Like, I've noticed that. Whatever. Anyways.
So I drove across country and broke down in Reno and block, and I don't know. I just finally made my way out to LA.
Did you think about not going when the car broke down, or were you held
No,
out?
I was on the way. I knew. And I even didn't come home for 3 years because I thought if I went home, I wouldn't come back. So I stayed for 3 years and forced myself not to go home on Christmas time so I would stick it out.
Oh my gosh.
Not leave. It was weird. I don't know why I did it, but I thought if I went home, then that would mean I'd fail because I didn't have I didn't want to go home until I had something with me.
I love that. We debunk on this podcast a lot what it's like to move to LA. And I think there's this whole, like, everybody has a pulse about exactly that. Like, I'm coming here, came to do what I need to do. And like, for you, did you know what that was when you arrived in LA? Like, you needed to become an actor, you needed to become a coach. Was it like clear for you?
I always wanted to be an actor.
Good.
I always wanted to be an actor. Even since I was a little kid, I would perform. I always wanted to act. I always thought it was super fun. And I always was directing stuff. And any play I was in, I was sit near the director and go, don't you think she should go over there? Because she's like, wants to get away from him or whatever. I was always in their ear trying to tell them how to do their shows. So I was always driven to this. Yeah.
I love that. So can you tell us about a time where like you were chasing a dream or an audition, or you had a certain goal and what you did to go get that goal?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. Dream and a goal that I want, and I can't even really think. I think every day in this career, you're sort of chasing goals that you want, like just by making a project or trying to make it better than you did last time. I'm trying to think of that's a really good question. I'm trying to think of a specific time.
What do you do when you get the dream starts? Like, I want to be on blank show, or like, I want to make this movie. What's the first thing you do to get the ball rolling for yourself?
I first have to see if I see something that inspires me and I want to do it.
Yes.
The first thing I do is I call upon the people I love, that I want. I like my team or my peeps.
Right.
And I just throw the idea out. I'll say, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this? Or I want to do this story. Like I do that now. I want to shoot a movie back east. I definitely want to shoot a movie on the Cape. And I haven't a whole idea. So every once in a while, I'll just throw it out there. Would anybody ever think about doing this? Or would anybody ever want that? And I've said it to a couple actors, and they're like, they love the idea.
Right.
So then that starts to grow. And then if you just keep thinking about it, I think if you keep thinking about it, manifesting it in your mind, just like anything else, like if you want a job, like I want to work in this business, or I want to buy that certain car, right? You start thinking about it, and then you start researching it, and then your mind starts going around, and you're like, well, what about red? Or you know what? I think I like a white, because white just, and then you just start
You're visualizing it.
And then all of a sudden it starts to grow its own legs.
Yeah.
But you have to put love into it. So I think whatever you put your energy and focus and time into starts to come back to you.
Right.
Benefits back. So I just start to kind of manifest it.
I love what you said, though, is like you tell people about it. I think sometimes I've done it with myself. Like I'll have a goal or a dream, and like, you kind of keep it to yourself and you don't tell anyone and whatever. But the first thing is to go forth and share that dream with the people you love and the people around you, because you never know who's going to stop and help you too. And also, like, I remember you said this right before I went to Hawaii after Scott's play. You said something about like, if you're an actor, you need to tell people and be proud. Don't be mousy about it, because you're speaking that kind of into existence. And I've never forgotten it. And at the time I would kind of be like, well, like I'm an actor, but like, I just assisted on this, or I also do that, but now I'm just like, nope. I'm an actor. And like you lay that out there, because not only are you telling yourself and the people around there, you're telling the world. And like that's a big takeaway I've taken. So I love that the first thing you do is tell the people around you. Okay, let's talk about the visualizing part. I think visualizing can be kind of like, I don't know, tricky. Like, and you talked about Jim Carrey driving to like each studio. Now, did he have those auditions, or was he just practicing?
He was practicing.
Visualizing.
He's driving to
right, and like he literally
would track
do
the
it.
time and know that he can make one at 1, and then he can be over to the other side by 2:30 or 3:00.
Live the life you want to live. You're speaking
doing it ahead of time. Well, isn't Amy Poehler the one who would cut out the big pictures of casting directors and put them down and have interviews, mock interviews with them before she actually walked in the door?
I didn't know that.
I think it's in her book. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my
Amy
gosh.
Poehler who did that, but
there's an actress who did that there.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, there's somebody who did that. I think it's her, but yeah.
I love that.
It's thinking outside the box, right? Thinking outside the box.
I want to note that, like, you know, a lot of hard work goes into victories. It's not just sitting there and visualizing. Like, you have to, like, go out and do the work behind it. And on top of it, place yourself in that space. We see so much nowadays of people's highlight reels, and like, you know, consistency is the most important thing. You know, you always say, if you know, want to be an athlete, you don't just, what do you always say?
Don't just show up to the game. You have to practice.
Right.
Otherwise you're going to bench. You know, be sitting on the bench. You can't put you in. You don't know the plays.
Right.
The game. You have to practice. This is just like anything else. You have to keep on top of your craft. If you are making shoes and you don't make shoes for 3 months and you come back in, you can't stretch the leather so well. If you're making sushi every day and then you don't do it for 6 months and you go back and you're like, wow, and my roll is not as tight. You have to practice everything on a daily basis, because you either get better or you get worse. Mm-hmm. If you're an athlete and you're not practicing your drills, you're going to be slow. You're going to get in that game, you're going to be slow. So if you're not working on your muscle, you're athletes anyway. Actors are. You're working a muscle. If you don't work that muscle, then you're going to atrophy. And so, you know, you want to keep it. You want to keep practice at everything, because you're living in Los Angeles. You're in Hollywood. You're an actor in Hollywood. Chances are you're going to bump into somebody who's going to give you an opportunity. And what happens if you're rusty? All of a sudden the coach goes, hey, go ahead in, but you're rusty.
Right.
Then there goes your opportunity. So you have maybe 1 or 2 chances to really be available and ready. So why not just be ready?
And that's practice and consistency. You know, I think sometimes people get this huge illusion about LA that like everybody here just like makes it. And like, that's not true. Everybody here that makes it worked really hard to get there. And it's a huge, I feel like, and I had it when I showed up here. You know, I just figured everyone's dad's a producer and, you know, everyone's mom works at this agency and whatever. But the truth is, those people, not all of them, most of the time, work really, really hard to get where they're going, on top of setting yourself up for these manifestations of like, you know, not only I believe it, like I have the confidence to do it. And so everyone around you will see it too. Last night I was telling you this in class, but last night I saw King Richard, which everyone should go see, which is about Vanessa Williams and Serena Williams and their father. And, you know, there's this moment a coach asks them, he says, do you really think you're good enough? And she says, I know I am. And like the way she said it was so humble and sweet, but also you believed her. You know, I think it takes a lot of time for somebody to get there. And you know what the time is? If you put in the hard work, then you know you're backing yourself. You know you've done the work. It's right there. What would you say to somebody who's like kind of half and half on their dream? Like you need to flip the switch and go full throttle. What would you say to inspire them to do it?
Well, first of all, they have to want to do it. And if they're half and half, maybe their heart isn't in it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if there was somebody in my life like that and their heart was half in it, I'd have to see if they're really talented, I'd probably tell them, you know, you have an opportunity to really be good at this. However, if your heart's not in it, why?
Right.
Why bother? Because there's somebody who wants it that much more, that is willing to work that much harder. Because if you think about it, you guys, actors, artists, writers in this game that want to play in this world, they're not much different than a professional athlete. So if you're not sure that you want to get hit and knocked down, then you can't don't go out for that football team, because the chances are you're going to get hit, and you're going to get hit hard. And if your heart isn't in it, well, you have no business being on the field.
Right.
I mean, so same thing with an actor. You're up against the people at the top of their game.
Right.
Because you're going to spend all that time in something your heart's not really in, only to go, I never really wanted to do it in the first place. Well, if you're going to do it, give yourself a fighting chance and put your heart in it.
I love
Give
that.
it everything.
Yes, I love that. We talk about getting really specific with goals. So like goals can be really broad. Like I want to lose weight. That's broad. How specific do you get with your goals? Do you niche it down to like time and date?
No.
Okay, good. Because like when people say that to me, I get really overwhelmed. Like I've heard literally like, you need to write to the day, like the day you'll get it done. And I'm like, oh.
I've never thought to do that.
Okay.
I guess that could be in a self-promotional book or a self-help book or for procrastinators.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I've never really worked that way. I sort of just go where my heart tells me at the time. And if I feel something, I'm immediately drawn and driven. I'm one of those people that's pretty happy. But once I see a project and I want to do it, then I'm all full in. But then I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I think that's totally fine. I think you're somebody who can follow their impulses really well. And like, that's the most important because then you're on your path to following what you need to be doing. You know, I'm just curious, you know, for somebody out there who doesn't have that, you know, like how does someone find that? Because I mean, I remember when my cousin was applying to college and my mom was like, I was like, I don't get it. Like, just pick a major. And she's like, that's easy for you to say because you've kind of always known what you wanted to do. And like, that's not true of everyone else. It's like, what's your advice for somebody to unblock their impulses?
That's so funny because my dad raised 12 kids and I remember he was 85 at the time. And I was like saying something about one of my nephews or like what would happen. Like he doesn't know what he wants or he's getting a drive. And my dad, or I said something about I don't know what I said, but he turned, he looked at me and he goes, I'm 85 and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Oh. And I'm thinking about my father. He has such an extraordinary life and he did so many things and he was such a successful man. For somebody like that to say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. It's kind of like, maybe that's okay. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's okay if you go your whole life and you never really know. There are people in the world that never really know what they want to do, but maybe they don't even realize that on a daily basis, they're giving a gift by just being who they are or just like going to pick up eggs and bringing it to the neighbors. Maybe there's people like that in the world and they still are searching, but maybe they're searching and then every day they're searching, they're just dropping off gifts and they don't even know it. I don't know.
I love that. Oh, okay. It's almost the new year. What is the advice you tell your students to do over break for goal setting?
Oh, your New Year goals? You mean like a New Year? Oh, wow. Well, give yourself a 5-year plan is usually sometimes I'll say that. But goals for your New Year, I think everybody makes goals. I think the New Year is the time where you start a new chapter. And I always say in the middle of it, just try to find something you really love and make sure you do a little bit of what you loved this year. Like just find a way. And if you make that like a priority and you're like, oh, okay, well then I still get that bonus at the end of the year. Like maybe I'm going to save a little bit of money and I'm going to go on a trip to Hawaii, or maybe I'm going to, go hike like once a week because I've always wanted to do that, or just something that'll bring you joy because that will put everything else in perspective. I think that that's important. And then as far as goals and drive, well, you have to always constantly be on top of your goals and drive. You can't just wait for the new year. Excuse me. As an artist, you have to have some sort of plan. Because you have to take care of the business side, you have to take care of the acting side, you have to take care of everything. So you have to have some sort of goals and plan. And let's say if your bank account's a mess, then maybe you want to try to make it a little bit better, or you want to just kind of improve, like
clear the house.
Yeah, a little bit. Next year, I'm gonna approach it maybe at a little bit of a different angle, or I'm gonna get a little more specific about certain things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Bryan Cranston talks about it in his book. He talks about cleaning the house, and he says something about, you have to make sure your house and home, which is not just your physical house and home, but the mental space you take up is clean. So, you can go forward and do what you need to do. And I think if you're not in a clean space, mentally, physically, emotionally, even for me, literally physically in my house, if it's not clean, I can't sit there and be really clear about what's next for me and what I actually want. Instead, I'll go external and just see the world and be like, oh, I should want this, I should want that, and go into that mode. So you have to take care of yourself first to allow that to happen.
Yes, that's absolutely right. That's beautifully put.
Oh, thank you. I kind of pulled that out of my butt. But, for somebody who might be discouraged to get themselves out there or be open and honest about their goals with, friends or family, what would you say to encourage them to share?
First of all, before you share everything, be careful who you're sharing things with.
Ooh, I love that.
You can't share certain things with certain people. And if you know that, then why do that to yourself?
Because you have to protect your life.
That's exactly true. So you got to be careful of what you share with. But you also have a team. You should have your team around you, your peeps around you that believe in you. Surround yourself by people who have the same goals and visions. Mm-hmm. And then you have something in common. You see the ball players, they hang around with other ball players. Why? Because they have something in common.
Right.
They don't have friends that are skateboarders. They don't hang around with a bunch of skateboarders. So it's like you got to kind of surround yourself by like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And that way you'll feel like you're not such an outcast, because artists are very different. They're not the same thinking. That part of their brain never grew up. So for them to be around other people, they may feel a little outcast.
And if somebody is holding you down,
you gotta go.
You gotta cut them.
Yeah.
It kills the creative energy. You don't have time for that. And that's a huge lesson, by the way, that you've really brought into my life, is that, you got to protect your light and whatever that is. And you gotta cut the fat. You gotta cut the losers. If they're not going where you're going, then that's not meant to be. And I do think that's very important, to feel protected and safe in a space in order to share or keep it to yourself, and know. So I love that. I think the first step of chasing your dreams and your goals is to find the right community for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
I love that. I think it's very honest and real to say that you need to be careful about who you and how you share your dreams, because also, you can't make perfect the enemy of still very, very good. So let's say, I'll just make one up. Your dream is to be on SNL. And you don't end up on SNL, but you end up on a very successful sitcom. Did you really fail? Did you really not get the goal? That's still very good. So it's I heard on a different podcast an actor talking about how, you shouldn't share your auditions with your family, because then they'll be like, when are you going to be on the show? And you're like, I'm not, I didn't get it. I just got the audition, and that can have, an effect on I keep calling it your light, which feels really cheesy for me, but your light, so you do need to protect yourself with that. And not, some people's goal are I want to get married, I want to have kids, and that's fine, and they don't always need to be extraordinary heights of I want to be the CEO, I want to be the next Michael Jordan. Can just be this year I'm going to say thank you more. And that doesn't get enough credit.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. We definitely hype so hard on that your goals and dreams are victories. And I've even done it during this podcast. And it's really what do you need at the end of the day to know you're a good person? So I don't know. Thoughts there. So for somebody who's getting started with your goals, set them, decide who your team is, and then what's next?
You start working. Depending on what you're doing. If it's a script, you get the script together, then you know how to do a project.
But what do you think the regiment is? Do you have a regiment? I don't have a regiment.
Do you, you mean a routine in the morning?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I think you have to have some sort of something in the morning. I have to get up and exercise somehow. Yes. Whether it's go for a little run or swim
or surf,
whatever.
Kathleen's really cool and she surfs.
You get up in the morning and you have to, for me, I have to get up in the morning. I have to move my body. I love my coffee. Sometimes I can just get up in the morning and have my coffee and write in my journal before I even get out the door and move. It's really good. I think that I have to write, whether it's at night or in the morning. I have to write. I have to sometimes get out my thoughts and my feelings, or put things down on paper that I haven't quite figured out how I feel about it yet, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think there's definitely a routine, and the earlier my routine is, the better my day goes. The earlier I go to bed, the better my day goes. Now, if I'm on set and the hours are shifted and they're long days, as long as my day's off, I sleep. So I think, yeah, you need a routine. You need to be focused. I think when people get into a routine, they're more productive.
Ooh, let's talk about the days off. Because I think this is something I've struggled with somewhat. How important do you think it is to take a day off?
How important is it for you to sleep? How important is it for you to rest?
Right.
And the days off are rest. Like if you're resting, you're healing your body, right? Especially since you're athletes, you're working. So even if you're working on a set and you're doing, maybe you don't even have a long day, but you do an emotional day, right? So you do 7 takes. Then you come in and you do close-ups and everything, and you're getting emotional. You go and you shoot the next day. And then let's say you have a day off and you go partying with your friends or whatever. You don't get that rest and your body doesn't get that sleep. It needs to heal from that emotional trauma that really actually happened, because it was really happening to you in the circumstances. You might get sick. You might get a cold. You might get fatigued. You might start to get a scratchy voice, or you'll start to feel run down. Why? Because you're not taking the time to rest. Because after you work really hard, even the people on the fields at work, they know to come in and like take some time, kick your boots up, rest your feet. You got to rest your car. You can't drive the car and never put gas in it.
That's my favorite.
It's true.
But I mean, it makes so much sense, but people do it all the time. If there's not gas in the car can't go anywhere. So why do people do that anyways?
I don't know. What that beautiful famous poet, she wrote about the candle burning at both ends. Come on. Oh. Slipped my mind, but yeah. You
can't burn at both ends, because also what's the first thing that goes when you're burning at both ends? I think the things you love. They go right, or they don't go right out the door, but then you don't get to them, or you don't get to them how you like, So, it's a new year coming right up. This will be the last episode of the year for the podcast. I know, it's so exciting. What do you do to dream? Do you get inspired by books, by TV? What inspires you?
The world. I can see somebody do something and I'm like, oh man, I could do that, or I would like that, or I should try that. People inspire me on a daily basis. I see somebody like my students inspire me all the time. The things that they do and how courageous they are. And I'm thinking, gosh, if I was that age, would I be that courageous to do that? And then they inspire me to take chances. I don't know. Movies can inspire me, but I just think mostly people that I meet and people that I come across and lives that I come across and people that I've met. Even when we were stuck during the lockdown and we couldn't go anywhere, I was teaching online classes, and the people from different places that I met through my online class inspired me, and their lives inspired me, and the way they thought about things and the way their world was so much different than ours just really made me more aware. And that's why other things I started doing other things for other countries, because I started getting inspired.
Right.
So, yeah, people
inspire you.
Definitely.
I love
you
that.
You inspire me.
Oh, stop.
Look at you're so young and you create all this stuff. You do your own podcast. You're a working actress. You hustle. I mean, I was inspired by you when Scott threw you the keys to his car and was like, go get me this and go do this. You're like, I'll do it. And I was thinking, this kid just, wow, she's got some guts. And I gave you a lot of responsibility. And ever since I met you, you've taken on a lot of responsibility. Very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. You inspire me very much. I mean, we didn't even cover all the lessons that I feel like you've taught me. I mean, you've taught me about, holding space for your creativity, that, consistency and practice are what's going to cross the finish line for you. And that, also like you've really taught me a lot about just being a good person and about being so open. Oh my gosh, Kathleen is the most sweetest, kindest, open person. And like, I just am so inspired by you to also be that open with people. And like, you know, I felt like I probably had the capability to be that open, but you know, you don't know who you are when you're like 18 and stumble into LA or whatever, whenever you come here. And it's like, no, it's if you really find that community we talked about, you can be that open. So you've really created that space for me. So I thank you very much for that. You've inspired the living bejesus out of me. And also pushed me to new heights too. And like, that's the balance. And that's something I will say for anybody out there who is not inspired right now or not looking for your goals. You got to find a mentor. You have to find somebody you trust and somebody you can also have friends with, but also let them push you. And also they have to inspire you. And you are that person for me. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I've been waiting to do this.
I know. Really it's so fun. Good. I'm so glad. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in 2022.